Hello everyone. As promised, this is the Seamus Asylum daytime walkthrough. This year we have a lot of new props, including both animatronic, digital, and pneumatic props this year, as well as many actor-based scare zones. So this year we have 6 rooms that we have, 6 distinct rooms, starting with the witch hut, the spider's nest, the haunted mine shaft, moving into the boogeyman room, the chainsaw guy, and the haunted portrait at the end, which is a new room just this year. So let's start out front. You see our cemetery display and our sign. And then we move to the haunted house itself. This is built out of our 3-car garage. Space is limited in here, so we try to keep everything tight. Not only does it conserve space, but it also makes things that much more creepy. We got the caged window, skeleton crawling on the house, the exit here with wood and freaky fabric, and then the entrance to the witch hut. So the purpose of the witch hut is just to give a good display for an entrance, but not be too scary. There's no actual scare zones here in the witch hut. We do that because we have a lot of small children that come through here, and we don't want to freak them out too much, especially in the beginning. So got the glowing skull, spell book, some potions and candles and everything with the moving books, a lot of creepy witch-like artifacts, and of course the witch. Now the witch is on animatronic. She'll kick on as soon as I move into her range, but we also have the cauldron here. We experimented with several different cauldron designs. We used to use dry ice and a light, and while that worked really well, you have to refill the dry ice once every half an hour, 45 minutes or so, and that just wasn't maintainable. So we moved on to this design, which was inspired by Oak Lane Cemetery design. If you want to learn how to make this, you can check it out on their page. They have really good tutorials, but it's basically a rotating light underneath plexiglass with some paint on it. So I'm going to move into the witch's field of view, so that way she will detect me and kick on. There she is.
Well, hello. You don't happen to have some candy for a sweet little old lady, do you? Give it to me. You're too quick for me. I'll get it next time.
So she has several different sayings she'll go through, and she has those on rotation. He's got another mirror here. Now we're moving on into the spider's nest. As you can see, there's a transition, and it looks completely different than the witch area. So we have the spider web all over the place. You're immediately greeted by a spider under black light. The black light makes the spider's webs glow very heavily, and spiders being black, it creates a really good contrast. I don't know if you can see it with just the black light, but if I move them into range, you can see there's some fishing line here. This was my wife's idea. She had, what she likes to do is think about what freaks her out, and we implement that. So yeah, you can't really see it. It just feels like something's getting you, and it creeps people out. It does a really good job. So that's one of the scares here. The next, you can see a spider up here. This guy is actually on compressed air. So what he'll do is when we activate the compressed air, he'll jump and hiss and spray compressed air at the victims underneath. So do that. That's one of our new props this year. It works out really well. So moving on, we have various spiders all over the place, along with their webs. So spider victims going on multiple places. With our skeleton here. And then on the floor here we have Jumpy. He's kind of hidden, which is intentional. He will jump when people walk by him. Now I'll go ahead and trigger him now. There he goes. So he doesn't jump that far, but he freaks people out every time. So under normal circumstances, Jumpy will be triggered by a person standing behind the wall over there. You can see the line to the foot pad that we use to press. That wall is a false wall, just covered up by spider web, and it does a really good job of scaring people. Jumpy is obviously on motion detect, but it's not very reliable, so we don't use that very often. But what we do have on motion detect, because it's much more reliable, is this guy. This is a new prop this year. It's a dropping spider. Once I move into range, which is going to be pretty soon, he's going to drop down to get me. So he hangs back pretty well along the wall, so he doesn't actually hit anybody, but the sudden drop effect works out pretty well. Plus, when he's going up, it's just additional motion to the room, which works out really well. So the next effect, we got spiders, the spider's egg here, and the really big spider on a web-like shape. Now, this is all just a distraction. As I said before, this is a false wall, and someone actually hides behind there and can kind of jump out and scare. So I'll put my hand behind it, like they can kind of reach out and yell and scream, and that gets people every time. So I'll show you kind of behind the scenes in that. Got the ghoul that's blocking the area, so people don't try to go back there. And you can't really see much, but this is where you control the compressed air, where you can look out into the spider's nest area and get people. So next we have our transition room. We have the ghostly bride. It's just something that looks good under black light, and she makes noise and everything. If I can trigger it, there we go. But this is just something additional while we transition from the spiders area into the mine shaft. I don't know if you can see the caution there, you can't really. But the haunted mine shaft is a really good room. You have bats coming down from the ceiling. You have the flickering lights and this rotating red light here. That keeps it pretty dark, but it still allows them to be able to see when they're walking through. So some of the new stuff we have this year, the construction of the mine shaft. This used to be made out of paper, but now we've made it out of foam insulation, spray foam, which we painted. This area is primarily my wife's creation. She does a really good job, like I said, of coming up with stuff that she would think would be scary, and she does that. So we have the mirror at the end, which makes it look like the mine shaft is longer than it really is, so that creeps people out. There are 3 primary scares for the mine shaft. One of them at the bottom, you can't really see very well, but there's a piece of painted black PVC. That is hooked up to a pneumatic trigger, which, if I can activate, it sprays out at you. And obviously the sound of the air, suddenly the air actually hitting you, it can creep you out. But it's just one of many things. Additionally, we have this section here, which you can't really see very well, which is intentional, but this is actually a hole in the ceiling. So during the haunted house, someone can reach down and scare people that way. But the primary scare factor of the haunted mine shaft is the bones that are sticking out of the side. There are several of the bones that are loose, and we have multiple people behind the scenes here that work them and shake them around and use them to scare people. So that is the haunted mine shaft. You can see a little bit of the behind the scenes area here. We have the curtain, and you can see parts of the mine shaft. Some blue light, so that way people have some light back here, but it's not so obvious. We'll move on into the boogeyman room. You can see the boogeyman here. Some creepy clowns, creepy dolls. The boogeyman is holding what appears to be Boo from Monsters Inc. It's not technically Boo, but everyone agrees that she looks exactly like Boo. And then the cage. Now the cage is, we have actors that actually hide in the cage and yell and scream and ask to be let out. They do a really good job, and there's been times where people have actually let them out of the cage because they were so convincing. So, looks really well. Oh yeah. This is what the boogeyman looks like when the animatronics are enabled. This guy also moves, and I'll try to get him. There we go. So there's a lot going on here. Move on to the next transition room. This is transition between the boogeyman room here and the chainsaw cage area. This is really dark, but if you can see, there's hanging body bags. These guys are made out of mostly like soda bottles and milk bottles and stuff like that. So it's really light, and they hang from the ceiling. They aren't meant to be too scary, but they're meant to creep people out and make them have to walk around and find their way through. So it's really nice. Additionally, sometimes one of the body bags falls, and we get to take it and throw it out the exit of the haunted house and say, "Oh, we got another body." So that creeps people out that are waiting in line. Next area is the chainsaw cage. Now, this is one of our classic props. This is one of the first props we invented, I think 10 years ago when we first started this. You got the creepy red light for the effects, and then you have body parts on chains, other chains all over the place, and the dummy. Now, the dummy is just a placeholder. This year we had some of our actors actually lay on the table, and another actor would chop them up with a chainsaw. So chainsaw is electric, not gas, for multiple reasons. So, obviously we have no chain on it right now because that would be very dangerous. But number one, a gas chainsaw would be incredibly loud. I mean, the electric one's already loud enough, but the gas one would be substantially louder. And also the exhaust from the chainsaw would smoke up the place. So we don't want to do that. So electric is definitely the way to go for that. So see the weapons and utensils used for dismembering bodies back there, along with obviously the chainsaw. And that's about it for the chainsaw cage area. Now we're going to move into the haunted portrait room. This is the haunted girl in the portrait. Let her do her effect. This is our first ever digital prop. So obviously we have a table set up here with some candles and everything, but the real masterpiece here is the portrait itself, and she moves, goes through various animations, and is really super creepy. Now her main job is to distract people as they walk by, so that way they don't see the person who can jump out from behind the ghoul here. You can't really see it very well, but there's a behind slotted black plastic section here that people can jump out from. So if I have time, I'll make a video of how we did this. It's really pretty cool. It's an original prop. We didn't learn it from anywhere. We just got the animations and assembled this whole thing ourselves. So that's it. This is the exit. Come out, and then people will get their candy out here. So that's it for 2019. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions about it, how we did anything, you can ask in the comments, and we'll post some links for the Halloween night walkthrough that we did, as well as links to previous years.